Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Friday edition of Middays with Q, coming at you live, powered by our wonderful friends exclusively on TriX57. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quiñones. 2 hours to play with on this June 27th, 2025. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. As always, get in on the conversation. You know how we dub and how we name our Fridays going forward. It is indeed a what the frig Friday. So, what made you say what the frig this week in the world of sports? I've got a couple of them. As I'm a little amped up on this Friday afternoon. Get social with us as always, TriX57.com, at TriX57 on IG, and of course on X. And you can follow along with me on IG and X at RichQ on the YouTube channel, at Rich Quiñones, TikTok Rich Q on the mic. All right, so we've got 2 hours, as I mentioned, to play with John Bueller from Fanside. It's going to join us in the second hour, 5:05. Man, where do we begin on this Friday? Yes, we'll get into a little baseball. We'll kind of go around the Diamond, Mets, Yanks, Phillies, the usual suspects. NBA draft is in the books. And you got to start there on a couple fronts because the nonsense that is coming out regarding the NBA draft and obviously, the Rutgers product, the kid that could do no wrong, Ace Bailey, is where we got to start today. The Sixers, I thought, got a nice little gem. Round 2, 35th selection. We'll get into that as well. But this whole notion, this nonsense going on right now with, again, Ace Bailey. I mean, you've got a kid who's 18 years old, who is a rookie, who was just drafted out of Rutgers by the Utah Jazz, and he's deciding, you know what? I'm too cool for school. This kid has yet to still join the Utah Jazz. He has still yet to get on a plane, charter a plane, go out to Mormon City, and be with his teammates. This is ridiculous. This is utterly ridiculous right now. Who is advising this kid? Seriously, who's whispering in this kid's ear to do this kind of nonsense? It's bad enough you already declined workouts with individual teams ahead of the draft. It's bad enough you basically gave a list of teams. Don't draft me, top 5. I'm not showing. It's bad enough that he's making all these demands and we got to appease him and we got to placate him. Honestly, seriously, who the hell is this kid that I'm going to listen to you and your demands? Did you invent the game? Are you Ace Naismith? No, you're not. You're not. So all of a sudden, I got to listen to you. You're an 18-year-old kid. You haven't had a cup of coffee yet in the NBA. And I got to tap dance for this kid. This kid's going around basically saying, I want to go here, I want to go here, I don't want to go here. No, absolutely not. This kid right now at this point is starting to sabotage his career before it even starts. Before it even starts, this kid is going to sabotage his career. It's like damaged goods. It's red flags. And I mentioned this the other day. There is totally a difference between turning around and saying where you want to go. But then when you are drafted, when you are selected, and you are chosen, you still got to go there. You still have to go there. And again, this right now, this is nonsense. This is an 18-year-old kid dictating to an NBA franchise, the league, mind you, where I'm going to go, where I'm going to play. Now, he's drafted. And I think at the end of the day, he's going to show up. But I'm listening to these comments. And as I alluded to, I hearken back to night 1 of the NBA draft when ESPN has a camera on him. They're too busy. They're worried about his friggin' suit. Really? I mean, he didn't openly seem kind of angry. He basically said, I can control what I can control. Oh, hold on a second. How about this? How about you say this, my man Ace Naismith? How about you play this card? Ready? You sit there and say, hey, I'm thrilled. I'm humbled. All the blessings of the world. Pay homage to the man upstairs, right? That I'm going to be playing in the NBA. Utah is an unbelievable franchise. Great history. I can't wait to get out there and work my tail off. Is that so friggin' hard to do? As a fan, I want a kid to say that. As a teammate, I want my teammate to say that. Now you got to sit there and you got to listen to his reps. Oh, yeah, he's thrilled to go to Utah. No, he's not. He's not. It's not necessarily a big deal that he's not there, but all the smoke, right? All the smoke is coming to a head. And you guys know this as much as I do. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And the last thing you want to do is turn around and you want to sabotage your career before it even starts. This kid better go out and he better ball out. He better ball out when it's time to hit the floor. Period. Period. He better do it. You cannot, again, you can't sit there and dictate. You can't. And I know right away you guys are going to get on me. I know exactly what you're going to throw in the comments. I see him coming in. I see him on X. I already see him on Facebook on a What the Frig Friday. You're going to pull the Eli nonsense, the Eli car. Okay. Fine. And I think, again, that was more of his father at the end of the day. And how did it turn out? You're talking about two-time Super Bowl MVP, future Hall of Famer. This kid's 18 years old. This kid hasn't even had a cup of coffee in the NBA. This kid's 18, a young kid who played at Rutgers. No disrespect to Rutgers. Sorry, no disrespect to Rutgers. But it's not like, again, you invented the wheel, man. You invented the game. That's not happening. You can't have young players. It's such a player-driven league. That's the problem with the NBA. That's one of the bugaboos with the NBA. You got to nip that in the bud right away because there were red flags with this kid going forward. And you don't want to see a kid who's 18 sabotage his career. But now he's got a bullseye on his back. He really does. Whatever happened to just turn around and being, hey, humbled, magnanimous. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm going to work. We're seeing it in the NFL, right? Did we not see it? With Shedeur Sanders? We saw it with Bronny James. Rich Paul turned around telling teams, don't draft Bronny James. If you draft Bronny James, we're not going to do any business with you anymore. I mean, this is just utterly ridiculous. Like, shut up, show out, and work. That's it. That's it. That's what you have to do. That's all you need to do. 18, 19, 20. That's all you need to do. I mean, this nonsense basically made me say, what the frig, this week. Which, by the way, is about to get trumped by something else that occurred this week. It's about to get trumped by something that actually occurred, I believe it was today, on the mothership, which I'm going to get into. But you cannot, under any circumstances, have these young players running amok. You can't have the little inmates running the asylum. You can't have the league function like that. You can't. You can't. You just can't. It's bad business. Everyone's going to think now we can take those types of business practices with us. And ultimately, yeah, young kid getting bad advice. Like, what's the end game here? Do you not want to go out there and show exactly what you're made of? I mean, is it possible right now this kid basically forces his hand and his way out of Utah? Out of Utah. Doesn't even, put on the cap for a second. Didn't even go out there in Mormon land. Doesn't even jump on a plane. And right away, the Jazz are like, you know what? It's not going to work out. We're going to have to trade this kid. We're going to have to move this kid. Yeah, he was a 5th overall pick, but that's okay. I mean, did you not read the room, Utah? The kid declined to work out with you prior to the draft. The kid declined a workout with the Jazz prior to the draft. That tells me he wants nothing to do with Utah. Nothing to do with the Utah Jazz and the beautiful mountainous scenery. He doesn't. So why are you drafting a kid if he's got no interest? Because it was going to come out anyway. It is a bad look, period. It's a bad look. And I'm telling you, I believe what's going to happen now is this kid's not going to show up. And I believe this kid's going to force his way out of Utah. I really do. You got the number 5 overall draft pick who already came in with some red flags, and now he's going to dictate to the NBA where the hell he wants to play. Get out of here. And his agent can come out and shut down all these rumors. It's pretty clear. He doesn't want to play with Utah. I mean, that's pretty clear. Let's be honest. You want me to keep breaking it down so even you guys understand that? Go to the bar, have a couple pops, brunette walks in, you finally have to muster up the courage, you exchange pleasantries, you buy a beer, you talk about life, you exchange numbers, you go out, movies, date, wine, dine, dinner, finally meet the parents. It's a long romance. You guys are committed. Then all of a sudden you get down on your friggin' knee and you pop the question. Now all of a sudden she's like this. Oh boy, what do I do now? I mean, that's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. That's exactly where we're at. Utah basically playing with fire. They weren't really going to. You're getting in a relationship with someone that doesn't want to commit, and that never ends well. That is what we like to say a no-no. That is a no-no. All right, just cranking up on a Friday edition, Middays with Q. Let's see what we got here. Michael chimes in. Here we go. Well, yes, we have a lot to get into with Ace Bailey. Fired Up Friday with Q. The madman, always with some good takes. Channel your Woosah Wednesday demeanor. No, it's out the window. Listen, I'm already aggravated. There's other nonsense going on in the world of sports. De facto leader of the Bunker Boys, didn't he like Kobe do the same thing? Sure did. De facto. Yeah, you like that? Ace Naismith. Exactly. Kid thinks he invented the game of basketball, right? You got some peach baskets going out there. Exactly. Arch is going to do the same thing next year when the Cleveland Browns have the number 1 pick. Who knows how that's going to actually play out, right? I mean, that would be somewhat funny. You get Sanders back there and Arch as well. Giants would have had 3 Super Bowls with Rivers. I mean, that's just utter nonsense. I don't even need to hear that kind of. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to hear that kind of nonsense again. The madman probably would, because he's that guy. He's not going to stick it out. That's what I'm saying. Thank you, Michael. He's not going to stick it out. We got the guys that run towards the fire, and as I alluded to, the guys that run away. Now, I believe Madman is a guy that's going to run towards the fire, but he's not going to be happy in Utah. I don't think there's parking meters in Utah. I'm just saying, I don't think there's parking meters in Utah. So that's the one, I guess you can say, sports nugget that is just bothering me to no end today. Because that's where we're at in the world of sports. The second is the mothership once again, ESPN. The mothership once again providing, when in doubt, let's just race bait. Let's just throw it out there. Let's race bait. Let's start to have the conversations and make people feel uncomfortable. Well, listen, there's a good way and a bad way of doing that. I'm all for uncomfortable conversations, especially when we're talking about sports. So I told you guys this. I don't watch these shows, but I do love the account Awful Announcing, which is on X. It's all media. They give you the cold takes, the bad takes, the piss poor takes, the hot takes, everything. So let me throw this out there today on a Friday, and let me see if you guys bite with this a little bit. So this was earlier today, and I believe it was on, I guess, what is that? The First Take. So Peter Rosenberg, who I believe is on radio in New York, they're talking about Cooper Flagg, the NBA. So this is what he said, quote, Cooper Flagg is a white guy. Well, I mean, is that breaking news? Cooper Flagg is a white guy. Maybe the best white American prospect since Larry Bird. Let's not act as if we don't live in America and we're not seeing what's happening with Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. If he's nearly as good as people expect, no one's going to be more intriguing or get more eyeballs than what Cooper Flagg's doing in Dallas. Okay. So breaking news here to Rosenberg and, the mothership. Yet we do know Cooper Flagg is white. Is it just possible that Cooper Flagg's intriguing because he's a generational talent and he's maybe arguably the best college basketball player we've seen in a while, in a long time? Is it possible Caitlin Clark, who you guys know I'm a huge fan of Caitlin Clark, she brings in so much revenue, money, eyeballs, attention, attendance, fans to the sport of the WNBA because she's that good? I mean, do we have to start saying it's because they're white and they're good? This is the kind of nonsense, again, that absolutely drives me crazy with a lot of these shows and these talking heads, because you don't need to make it about race. Now, I'm bringing it up because ultimately this kind of stuff, this nonsense, this garbage has to end. Appreciate the player for who they are. Black, white, yellow, green, it doesn't matter. Appreciate the player who they are. So like I said, for the life of me, just who cares if Cooper Flag is white, black, yellow, green, blue. It doesn't matter. The kid can flat out friggin' play. Yeah, he's going to bring eyeballs to the NBA, just like Caitlin Clark's bringing eyeballs to the WNBA. I mean, it's all the same thing. Like, if you're good, you're good. If you're talented, you're talented. If you've got markability, you've got markability. If you got branding, you've got branding. If you got endorsement deals coming because of your talent, because of your persona, because of your charisma, because of your charm, because of your looks, have at it. Have at it. More power to you. But the nonsense again, like, this is what we're going to do right now. Cooper Flag hasn't even stepped on the floor. They're already asking him, the comparisons to Luka, putting him in that spot. Well, if Luka was still around, it'd be Luka's team. This is why the kid's side-eyeing people. I mean, I actually like the kid, and this kid's 18 years old. And you can tell, he's probably looking around. He's like, are these guys serious with this nonsense? I mean, what are we trying to do here? Are you trying to kind of recreate that, Caitlin Clark, right? The Reese nonsense, the Caitlin Clark, the race drama with Flag? I mean, seriously? This is what we're doing now? This is the clicks? This is how we're going to get engagement? Next thing I know, I got to turn around on Monday and I got to hear Solitaire Smith up there, right? I mean, this is just, enough is enough. Just appreciate the players for who they are, what they're bringing to the table. What they're bringing to the table. Forget about everything else. Forget about everything else. Look at the player. That's it. Look at the player. If the player's contributing, if the player is a pro's pro, if the player's handling him or herself the right way, if the player's going about it the right way, if they're showing you that they can produce, if they're bringing eyeballs and fannies to the stands, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. White, black, yellow, green, blue. It does not matter. But now you've got this perception, this narrative, this agenda, quite frankly, that's going to be pushed. Now, all of a sudden, every time Cooper Flag gets too much of the shine, too much of the love, it's going to create, that divide and go back to that space because of what this jackass said, what this clown said on the air. I mean, seriously, it's exactly where we're at. It's exactly where we're at. It's just, after a while, like, enough is enough. Enough is enough, man. Like, I get it. You have an opportunity to give an opinion. You can voice your opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But sometimes you take it on face value, or you kind of look and, again, we joke on the air. We say, read the room, right? Read the room. Like, you can't stop making those comparisons. It's lazy, lazy, lazy. And then for a network like that to push that content out is even worse. It's embarrassing. But again, that's where we're at. It's exactly where we're at. Just appreciate the players for who they are. Appreciate the players for who they are. Hardwood J chimes in. Q, 100% accurate on the monologue, brother. These are kind of comments that would never be tolerated by ESPN if they were made again the right way by Pros Pro. Clark is popular because she's clearly great, not because she's white, and the same is true for Cooper Flag. Yeah, I agree. Julio in Camden chimes in, listening on X. I mean, are you kidding me with this nonsense, Q? Who at ESPN thought it was a good idea to put this clown on airwaves? I don't know. I don't know. But as I mentioned, let these kids figure it out. Let them have a chance, right? There's a difference. You have an opinion on a player like a young kid like Ace Bailey. And if he's black, white, yellow, green, I'd be saying the same thing. Like, show up. Show up. You got drafted by the team. Be a team player and just show up. And just, sell out. Play ball. Contribute. Let all the chatter, let all the noise come from what you're doing on the floor. But we've gotten now too loose, too lax, too much leadway. Players, athletes, especially, guys coming out of college, they should not dictate. They shouldn't. And listen, I say the same thing about my guy Eli Manning. Was it Bush League that he did it? Was it Bush League that Arch did it? Archie Manning didn't want him to go to the Chargers. He wanted to play in the New York market. I wasn't a fan of it at the time. I wasn't. And then in 2007, when they were struggling early on in the season, he was throwing pick sixes left and right. Everyone wanted to run him and Coughlin out of town. Now, my problem was I was too much of an Eli supporter. I didn't see the forest between the trees when he was throwing picks and pick sixes. But I accepted it. I understood, just what the father's doing. This is what they're pushing for. Elway doing the same thing out of Stanford, played with the Yankees, doesn't want to go and go to the Colts, and he wants to sit there and eventually he goes to Denver. Like, I understand this. But again, you're apples and oranges, man. Apples and oranges. I mean, Ace Bailey is a good player. He's not a great player. Look at the body of work. It's just, Elway at the time was arguably the best quarterback in college football. Best quarterback in college football. So, and I still don't agree with having to kind of make these concessions with, again, trying to have teams placate. I don't agree with that at all. I don't. I really don't. What do we got here? Sling and Sammy. People like watching these kind of crap shows. I mean, really cute. It's not even controversy. It's just clown talk. Yeah, that's true. It is. Listen, you're right. You're right. But when you've got that platform, be responsible, right? Be responsible. That's all. Vibes chimes in. Q, I know you're not going to like this opinion. I think the thing people are missing is that Flag simply won't get the same types of opportunities in Dallas as a normal number one pick gets on a team. How do you say that? Right? I mean, what if he goes out and he gives them 15 and 10 and they make the playoffs? I mean, we're like right now, listen, even if you got who you have with Dallas right now in the starting five, this kid's going to come in and contribute right away. Now, there's always going to be growing pains. Always going to be growing pains. It's going to take a little bit of time, but you're going to tell me that this kid's not going to contribute and he's not going to get opportunities because he's drafted by the Dallas Mavericks? That makes absolutely no sense. It makes zero sense, to be quite honest with you. I appreciate the opinion and you tuning in, but that's just goofy talk. It really is. It really is. JD on X chimes in. Q, I hear exactly what you're saying, but again, the kid is just 18 years old. He's probably got some bad people in his corner giving him bad advice. It doesn't matter. Then the family's got to step in. Someone who trusts him has to step in and say, look, get on the plane. Get on the plane, and it better be this weekend, or there is a major problem because you got to prep for Summer League. You got to prep. It's not, all I'm saying is where there's smoke, there's fire. And if this kid opts to not report to Utah, he's ineligible to play in the NBA this season. And oh, by the way, he can't go back to college. So that leaves him what? Playing with some of the lower tier leagues or going overseas. And again, still take it a step further. That still means what? Utah still retains his draft rights. Now, if he doesn't report to Utah and he doesn't go overseas elsewhere, he could re-enter the 2026 NBA draft. But again, what if we get in this situation where he's still trying to control where he goes? And then all of a sudden you risk, you run out of luck. You risk the fact that you're not going to be drafted where you want to be drafted. So there's a lot of things right now in play with this kid. And if I'm handling this kid, if I'm trying to give him advice, sound advice, I'm just saying, look, this is an opportunity. You're playing in the NBA, man. You might like it out there. You might have fun out there. You might develop, lifelong relationships out there with your teammates. And oh, by the way, you get to play professional basketball. Like, handle your business. Handle it the right way. Take advantage of the situation. Like, make the best of it. Go out there and show them, hey, I'm going to go. I'm going to go wherever I'm drafted, and I'm going to flat out play. And I'm going to try to be the best player out there. And it just, like I said, it's bad because there is so much. The fact that you can almost go back and then you can turn around and then you can also grab money. And de facto brings it up, gets millions in NIL. In the meantime, screwing Utah. Listen, anything's on the table right now. But it would behoove him to show up. Because the fact that there are reports he's having second thoughts about reporting and then didn't fly out to Utah following the draft. I mean, what do? You draft it, you show up. That's what you do. And let's, again, read the room. The kid was not happy about getting drafted. That's you. Some of you guys who chime in play poker. That's called having a poker place. Even if you're not happy, right? The girlfriend, the missus, the mistress, whatever. It's a Friday night. The plans are right there. You got to go out. You got to double date. You got to go next door. You had that barbecue with the neighbor you don't like. Well, you got to do it to make the wife happy. You got to fake the smile. Put on a happy face, right? Put on a happy face. Fake it. Yeah, you don't want to hang out with that couple. You can't stand the dude. The guy doesn't probably even watch sports. You're like, oh, what am I going to do? Kill for a couple hours. Well, fake it, but play the soldier role to a T. Put on the poker face. And this kid's not doing it. Got a lot of texts, I should say tweets coming in also on Facebook on those comments on Cooper Flag, Ace Bailey. By the way, 505 John Bueller is going to join us. And I'll throw out the question right now on this Friday edition of Middays with Q with you. This is pretty easy now because you guys love to go NFL heavy in hour number 2. I'm going to throw it out right now. We got a lot of time to play with this one and kicking around. Which quarterbacks have the most pressure heading into the 2025 NFL season? I have a list. I've got 4 or 5 quarterbacks that without a doubt, we're talking pressure cookers. We're talking under the microscope. We're going to be watching every series, every snap, every play. We're going to look at the stats. We're going to look at the game film. We're going to go back. We're going to say if this quarterback's cutting it or not. There's a handful of quarterbacks that I believe have an enormous amount of pressure. We're talking either you can revitalize the career, save your career, or maybe that's going to be it. But we're going to dive into that as well. We're just cranking up on a Friday edition Middays with Q. A lot of comments coming in. I want to read them off as well. 27 past 4 o'clock hour. We are live. Powered by our wonderful friends over at TriX57. Give them a follow as well. We are also streaming live on the Facebook page, TriX57, on all social media accounts. We always like to say, get social with us, follow along. You can contact me on IG as well as on X at RichQ and Q, TikTok, RichQ on the mic. We'll get to your comments on the other side. Keep it locked in. It is a busy Friday edition of Middays with Q, or as we like to say, a What the Frig Friday. So there's another question, a little homework assignment. What made you guys say this week, what the frig in the sports world? We'll mix in a little MLB as well. Phillies fans, where's your offense? I mean, where's your offense? And then the Mets getting a much needed split against the Braves. I think they could have put the Braves to bed, but we'll talk a little baseball as well in about 15, 20 minutes. Keep it locked in on a Friday. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. And as always, get social with us. We'll come back on the other side. A lot of comments come in and we want to read them off. Keep it tuned in. We'll take you up to 6 on a Friday edition of Middays with Q.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
What the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
All right, 4:30 on a Friday edition Middays with Q. So we got some quarterbacks under the microscope, pressure quarterbacks 2025. We got the Cooper Flag nonsense. We've got Ace Bailey. We got some baseball to dive in as well. Let your voice be heard. We'll take up to 6 o'clock straight up. We'll give you the Q-fecta later on as well. Man chimes in. Purdy number 1. Brock Purdy, the number one quarterback feeling the most pressure heading into 2025. What say you guys? What say you guys? I am going to say definitely in the conversation, but I don't believe. Remember now, you're talking Brock Purdy, aside from the injuries, he's got at least a little equity in the bank. So he's got a resume to speak of. It's just unfortunate, banged up. You can go back to the NFC Championship a couple years ago. You can go back to last season, what transpired with San Francisco, where they had to endure a lot of injuries that really kind of sabotaged and set their season back. Brock Purdy, not bad, not bad. And I think, are you equating it now because of the contract? See, if Brock Purdy falters, period. I'm saying it right now. If Brock Purdy falters, if Brock Purdy has a down year, because he is being paid right now as one of the top 5 quarterbacks money-wise in the NFL. But let's say he gets nicked up again, he gets banged up, he misses some time. Let's say that you're talking week 6, 7, he's only thrown for maybe, 3 or 4 touchdown passes. He's got 3 or 4 picks. He just doesn't look right. Well, now all bets are off when you talk about 5 years, $265 million. I mean, that's, you have to listen. Ultimately, you're talking about, does this quarterback, the impact he has on the offense with the 49ers, does he have such an impact that can make this team a really good team, a really great team, or just an average team when he's on? So again, let me kind of take you down a path right now, and we'll use Purdy as an example. He's had a little bit of the drop off, right? And, his interception rate has gone up a little bit. That's never a good thing. He's going to have to clean that up. But again, he's a quarterback, and I think 49ers fans can agree to this. You got to get rid of the back-breaking turnovers, especially late in a game. Now, if he cleans that up, can he be that top 10, that elite type of quarterback that we've seen in the past? Even if you're talking late, when you're talking about 0 touchdowns in certain game situations, late game interceptions. I mean, you're talking 4 interceptions on 49 attempts. That's 8.2 interception rate. When your team's behind with fewer than 4 minutes to play, that's not clutch. Those are wasted series, wasted opportunities. So are you looking at Purdy from a number standpoint, a stat standpoint? It's not a bad pull, man. I can stick him on that list. I think, believe it or not, I think Tua is another quarterback that we have to recognize is definitely on that list. I think this is a make or break year for Tua. I also think this might be a make or break year for the head coach in Miami. I really do. There is pressure for them to win. And Tua Tagovailoa has been a very good quarterback when he's healthy, when he's on the field, when everything's right, when the ball's quick release, when they're running, their ground game's going. You got the wide receivers. You talked a little bit about the lack of the slot. Now, again, I know he's been looking sharp. That's fantastic. That's all well and good. But if he goes south, Mike McDaniel, he might be out of a job. And remember now, quarterback, head coach, it goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand. And I know Man doesn't want to hear this with his 49ers. If Purdy has an off year and they struggle, Shanahan, I believe, is done. If Tua, you guys are impressed that I pronounced it correctly. Well, I didn't just want to say Tua anymore. I want to say Tua Tagovailoa. I can't say the other word, the Aaron Rodgers. What is it? Echinacea, whatever the hell that word is. But if Tua struggles and the Dolphins struggle, and the Dolphins say don't make the playoffs and win 6 or 7 games, I think Mike McDaniel is going to be fired as well. Quarterback, head coach, they go hand in hand, guys and girls. They do. They go hand in hand. Not just saying he's the number 1 quarterback. I wouldn't say that. I think what you're doing is you are talking about his salary, and you're adding his salary into the mix. So you're looking at the production or lack thereof along with the salary. And I get it. I understand that. He's coming off an injury too, and I know Tua has been concussed. Caleb Williams. I mean, are we really are we really going to say right away, again, new coaching staff, right? Fix the offensive line. We have to add that into the fold, do we not? We have to throw that into the mix. I'm not ready to say that Caleb Williams is a quarterback that right away is on the hot seat. I'm not because he's still relatively young. I think they fixed the offensive line. Listen, it was a train wreck with the coaching staff. We all know that. And it's year number 2. So you're talking about a kid that was sacked 68 times and now year number 2. Sweet Miami fires McDaniel and he goes back to San Francisco. Possibly. Jaden Daniels, no, because of the outstanding rookie season. I think Jared Goff, big time. Jared Goff, I got my Lions fan, Jay in Delaware, well, Delmarva, I should say, chiming in. Definitely got to be Goff, Q. I'm over Goff and I'm almost over Dan Campbell. I think this is a big season and a big opportunity for Jared Goff. You can't put up those type of numbers and then, like I said, no show in the playoffs. You can't. And I get it. The defense gave up 45. I get it. Defense gave up 45. But this is a big, big season. This is a big opportunity now for Jared Goff because if you think about Jared Goff, they just didn't trust him early on in his career. And then he blossomed late with the Rams and had a couple of really nice seasons, came back down to earth a little bit. First season with Detroit, But then we saw the numbers. So he's great with numbers. He puts up the stats. But can you win in the big spot? Number 1 seed at home, you got to buy divisional playoffs, and he throws 3 picks. I think this is a huge year and an opportunity for Jared Goff. I really do. And he's not getting any younger, too. I mean, he'll be 31, but still, when you talk about these young crop of quarterbacks, now you got a couple more years out of them, absolutely. But you also have to produce. He's definitely a quarterback I've got under the hot seat, if you will. Matty G, Jets fan, chiming in. Q, I know you're not going to say Justin Fields, but I think this is a career-saving opportunity for him. Yeah, but again, I'm talking. Some of these guys have been established in the NFL, right? They've been established in the NFL. They have a body of work, like Prescott. Perfect. Prescott, absolutely. I mean, Dak Prescott, you're at this moment right now. If you're a Cowboys fan, man, I don't even know if, first of all, you got a quarterback that has been off injured and you have to trust your body to carry you through 17 weeks. And I know he put on muscle. He looks jacked. Everyone looks great with no shirt and shorts running around in July and August. That's great, man. You're getting your body right, your mind right. But ultimately, you're talking about a 31, 32-year-old quarterback that has taken a lot of hits over the last several years, and he's had a tendency to not finish seasons, and he's always getting banged up a little bit. Now, 2 years ago, he played 17 games. Prior to that, 12 games. Last year, only 8 games. I mean, Dak Prescott, you look at the money, you look at the contract, it's the star, it's the Dallas Cowboys. You have to lead this team deep into the playoffs, and they're not constructed to make a deep run, which is going to put more pressure on him. So you might see games this season where he's going off 30 of 38 for 388, maybe 4 touchdowns, but 4 picks. Like he's got to throw them from behind. He's got to lead them back. I just don't see it. I think this might be it for Dak Prescott. And, we contemplated this. We talked a little bit about this with Lloyd Vance last season. Listen, the Cowboys are not actively looking to move Dak Prescott. At least they're not openly, giving that vibe off. But what do you do if the Dallas Cowboys are 2-7 midway through the season and Dak is struggling? What do you do then? And you talk about a team that's strapped for a quarterback just to get them, win a couple games late and maybe get into the playoffs. A team that's kind of right there, right? Because Jerry Jones ownership group, what have they really done to support Prescott of late? And I'm not saying it's all on them, and I'm not saying it's all on him. But if they stumble out of the gate and they're out of contention, I think Dallas is in for a long season. They're out of contention by October. I think they might start selling off and they might retool. And then guess what? You're going to have to look at another coach because I think this coach might be one and done. So you got a 31-year-old do massive amounts of money through 2028. If I'm Dallas, I'm doing my damnedest to try to get out of that deal. So Prescott is definitely that guy. Detroit's going to win the division again. Okay. I mean, is that, you sound the alarm on that de facto? You got the NFC North. You got Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota. Minnesota with a quarterback that's coming off an injury. You got Green Bay with an inconsistent quarterback. You got Chicago with a second-year quarterback. And you have a team that won 14 games last year and the number one seed in Detroit. Of course they're going to win the division. Unless Jared Goff stinks up the joint. And Dan Campbell just does, again, boneheaded plays. I hear there's a lot of mice in AT&T Stadium. Yeah, I mean, you know, there are mice everywhere. Chimes in. Q, you already reverse mushing kibosh and my Dallas Cowboys. 12-5 at best. Leave Dak alone. Stop. See, that's a goofy Cowboy fan with nothing better to do on a Friday than just bother me. That's all. Cowboys fans they are without a doubt, I would say, prior to the Eagles winning a Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl, next to the Eagles fan base at the time, the most delusional fan base. Ernie chimes in. Q, you know me, I'm a Cowboys fan. Look at my guy. I don't care. You guys are tweeting at me that Dak is ripped. Yeah, he looks great. Shirt off. GQ. There we go. Model. But you're going to tell me he's a top 5 quarterback? Stop. It's utterly ridiculous. RJ chimes in. Come on, Q. You're going to see Michael Vick athleticism. Laugh out loud. Just enough. This is it for Dak Prescott, man. This is it. If it doesn't happen this year, it's never happening with Dak leading the Dallas Cowboys. You guys know it as much as I do. So you got Dak, you got Tua, you got Goff, Russell Wilson. No, because I think we already know the expectations for Russell Wilson. And Kevin Jackson, Giants fan, chiming in on Facebook. What if, this is the question Kevin poses, Q, what if Russell Wilson lights the world on fire and the Giants somehow are 4-4, 5-3? Well, I know exactly what you're insinuating. So you're insinuating that if the Giants are 4-4, which is highly unlikely, if the Giants are 5-3, which is even more unlikely. Let me pull up their schedule because I know the rabbit hole Kevin wants me to go down with him on this Friday. The Giants open up the season against the Commanders and the Cowboys on the road. So let's say they go on the road and lose to the Commanders and somehow come back and get that win against the Cowboys. Then they have the Chiefs and the Chargers. I believe those are both losses. So you're looking at either 0-4, 1-3. At New Orleans, maybe a winnable game. So that's 2 wins. Versus the Eagles, that's a loss. Denver, that's a loss. The Eagles, that's a loss. A healthy San Fran team, that's a loss. So again, YCP math, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks into the NFL season. There's absolutely no way they're 5-3, 5-4, 6-3. It's not happening. They'll probably at best have a win or 2. So now you're looking 2-6, 2-7. But let's go by Kevin's pipe dream that they're 5-4. I know exactly where he's going. Would they then, if Russell Wilson is struggling, do what Coughlin did with Kurt Warner when they were 5-3, bench Warner and then go to Eli? And then Eli promptly lost, 7 games in a row? No, they won that last game of the season against the Dallas Cowboys. Tiki took it in late on Sunday Night Football. The great Mike Patrick on the call. So is that where we're going? I don't see it. Dable right now and Joe Shane are fighting for their jobs respectively. They're fighting for their jobs respectfully. They have no margin of error this season. They don't. And one of the reasons I think they brought in the bridge, either Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson, was just kind of steady and calm the waters. But see, here's the problem when you have a head coach and a GM that are dead man walking, and you're not sure with your quarterback situation. Does management look at that and say, okay, we're going to give you a little more wiggle room. We're going to allow you, another year. The fact that those two don't have extensions in their future, Tampa Bay turned around with their GM and their head coach, and they re-inked them. Now they've shown they can win playoff games, and they can win divisions. The Giants under this regime have yet to show that, aside from going on the road a couple of years ago and beating the Minnesota Vikings. So my concern is anytime you have a coach and a GM that are on the hot seat and you bring in a bridge quarterback, it is the Band-Aid fix. It's not a long-term fix. And if you're an owner, how do you read that? How do you look at that? Like, what would be successful? The Giants going 6-11, Russell Wilson starting 7 games. They're 2-5, or 1-6. And then they start Jackson Dart and they win a couple games late, and the kid looks like he's a player. Does that save Brian Daboll? Does that save Joe Shane? Like, you got to be very careful here. You have to be really careful when you bring in a bridge quarterback and you've got a GM, or bridge quarterbacks, and you have a GM and head coach on the hot seat and you draft a young quarterback. There's a fine line you got to walk. There is a really fine line you have to walk. Daboll and Schoen will have too much confidence in Wilson, Winston, and Dart. Listen, you have to have confidence in your quarterbacks. You have to, or you got to fake it. You have to have quarterback confidence, and you have to have guys that are willing. You bring in pros. You bring in a veteran who's won before, and in Russell Wilson. They bring in Jameis Winston that's had his moments, and you draft a kid. But again, I go back to every franchise in the NFL that's had to go through with this. Case in point, look what went on a couple years ago in Washington. All the talk was, how come Eric Bieniemy doesn't have a job? Well, Eric Bieniemy decided, I'm going to try to get under Andy Reid's shadow. Hey, and I appreciate it, and I understood it. So he goes where? He goes to Washington. That wasn't the right fit, because the whole idea was, hey, man, get this Tyler Heineke, get him going offensively. We've got some weapons. And then look at the head coach. Great guy, good guy, pro's pro, football lifer, Ron Rivera, did not work out. So now you've got the OC, the head coach, you've got a question mark in the quarterback position. So now you got a GM, you're going through an ownership group, you're going through that change. I can't have these guys anymore, man. We got to rip it apart. I think that's what the Giants should have done. I think the Giants should have got rid of Brian Daboll. They should have gotten rid of Joe Shane after the season, brought in a new head coach, a new GM that can instill their philosophies, give them, their input, the way they want to build a franchise. And then you got enough time to figure out what the heck you were going to do in the draft, and not draft a quarterback and then sign 2 bridge veteran quarterbacks that are well past their prime. That's bad football management. That's an organizational mistake. And it's probably going to cost Joe Shane and Brian Daboll their job. The only way they survive this, and it's just not going to happen, Russell Wilson has to play well. And now Russell Wilson has shown them, hey, I'm playing well. You have to keep this kid on the bench. Like, coaches and GMs, they don't want to suffer losses. Head coaches don't want losses tacked to their resume. They don't. They don't want to lose football games. This is why the notion of tanking in the NFL is a joke. GMs, owners, coaches, they don't want to lose on purpose. They don't. They understand the reality. If their star quarterback, their franchise quarterback goes down, it's going to be a struggle, but they want to put the best product out on the field because they want to give their fan base some hope. They also want to let their ownership group know that they're trying their best. But where the Giants made a mistake, where the Jets have made a mistake, where Washington has made mistakes in the past, where Cleveland, hell, the Eagles did it years ago, when they were dealing with the Ray Rose, and then they brought in Andy Reid. But the difference at that time was they realized with the bridge and Doug, it was only a matter of time that Donovan was going to step in and play right away. So Andy Reid, that transition, you had wiggle room. I think they waited too long to get rid of Rhodes, but you understand what I'm saying. So the Giants are in this boat right now. The Jets were in a couple years ago. They're in this boat where they've got what they deem as a franchise quarterback, but they have two veteran quarterbacks on the roster. You've got a GM and a head coach that are fighting for their careers, their livelihood right now. So once Russell Wilson, if he struggles, you're going to go to Jameis Winston, or are you going to go to Jackson Dart and just baptismal by fire? Let the kid sink or swim and see what the heck you got back there. You have to. Broncos will sweep the entire NFC East. I am very high on Michael's Broncos. I told you, not the biggest Sean Payton fan, but I am a believer in Bo Nix. If those quarterbacks were on the Eagles, I would not have a lot of confidence in my team. So you're talking, again, be fair here. You're talking about a past his prime Russell Wilson. You're talking about, at this stage of his career, a journeyman quarterback in Jameis Winston and a rookie quarterback. Like, take it for what it's worth. Take it on face value. Look at where they at. Look at where they're at this point in their careers. You know, Russell Wilson, we're not talking about 2017, 18, 19 Russell Wilson. We're not talking about that guy. You're talking about an aging Russell Wilson that's taken a lot of sacks in his career. We're not talking about the Legion of Boom. You know, that Russell Wilson on that squad with that defense. So it's you can't really, he's a 36-year-old quarterback. He's a 36-year-old quarterback. So if you want to give me 2018, if I got that for 8 games, I would be ecstatic. 3,500 yards, 35, touchdowns. Give me that for an entire season. Take it in a heartbeat. Take it in a heartbeat. Daniel Jones, in a league where everyone, Trevor, throws for 4,000 yards. Daniel Jones couldn't even sniff that. Explain that to me. It makes absolutely no sense. In a league where every quarterback, I don't care who they are, they can be Joe Flacco at this stage of his career. Every quarterback in the NFL throws for 3,800 yards. 3,800 yards. Daniel Jones, in his entire Giant tenure, never even came close to that. The closest he came to 3,800 yards was a couple years ago, and that was 3,200 yards. And you had to add his 700 yards scrambling. That gave him 4,000. I mean, there's a real problem with that in a league that favors, again, the quarterback, protects the quarterback, makes the game open for the quarterback. You ask anyone that plays the sport of football or the NFL, they'll tell you the same thing. The rules right now, they benefit the quarterback. So in a league, and the way the game's officiated, where the quarterback should sit back there in the pocket, you can't blow on him, can't touch him, you can't nudge him. You can't give me 3,500, 3,800 yards? I mean, in 17 weeks, if Russell Wilson can't put up those numbers, if we're talking about Russell Wilson week 6, the Giants are 1-5, 2-4, and Russell Wilson's been sacked 25 times in 5 games, and he's thrown 5 picks. That's it. I'm over the Russell Wilson experiment. Get the kid in there and play him. See what he has sooner or later. It's going to cost Joe Shane and Brian Daboll their job, and at this point, as a Giant fan, I don't care. I don't care. I'm over it. It was a mistake to give Daniel Jones the type of money that they gave Daniel Jones. They didn't pay Daniel Jones on what they thought he was going to do. They paid him on what he already did, and that was win one road playoff game. Kevin chimes in, Q, you're absolutely crazy right now talking about Daniel Jones and the Giants. So how about your guy, Sam Darnold? Is he worth that type of money? Again, this is why I argue with Giant fans who are absolutely just, at times, goofy. It's apples and oranges. What did Darnold do last year? That's a career for Daniel Jones. And I'm not trying to pick on Daniel Jones, but what did Sam Darnold do? You're talking about a player that was in the MVP conversation, All-Pro conversation, comeback player of the year, one of the best stories in the NFL. And again, you want to sit there and say you're too biased towards Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold is a good kid. I think he had a rough go of it with the Jets, and I think he finally found his home, cashed in Minnesota, and see what he does in Seattle. But you can't compare the two because that's a quarterback that was slinging it all over the place last season. That's a quarterback that took advantage of an opportunity. Nobody saw Darnold throwing for close to 4,400 yards, 35 touchdowns, only threw 9 or 10 picks, took a lot of hits too. Nobody saw that coming. So he cashed in because that's what the market bared. Daniel Jones a couple years ago went on the road in Minnesota, beat the Vikings. They upset the Vikings. He won a lot of games late with the RPO and his legs, and he cashed in. But we knew to a man he was not the guy. You guys knew it, and I knew it. Come on. Come on. If I had to put a lineup together to save my job, I would not pick any of those clowns to man the helm. Yeah, but you're not stuck with them. You're not stuck with them. That's the hand they've been dealt. They chose those quarterbacks. When you bring in bridge quarterbacks, this is what you're looking to do. It's what you're looking to do. All you want to do is just steady and calm the waters. That's it. And then you find out if the kid could play. That's all. Jay chimes in. Q as a RU product. You are absolutely lambasting them to start the show. I was highly entertained, but I think you're way off the mark. This kid is 18 years old. Let's remember that and move on. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't. I can't. I think this is my gut. This is my gut. If this kid doesn't show this weekend, he is going to opt to not play. He is going to, I'm not showing up for Utah. And then that means Utah's got to move him. Got to move him. It's my opinion. It's just my opinion. And, you look at the odds. Right now the Lakers are sitting at plus 235, Dallas at plus 350, and Phoenix at plus 400. This is, think about this. If the Lakers were to trade for this kid, they're bolstering their roster, right? And you're trying to build around who? Trying to build around Luka, right? Because we know that LeBron's getting up there. Obviously, LeBron James hasn't really made a decision yet on that player option this offseason. So if he returns to the Lakers and they acquire this kid, right, you might have something there with that team. I just think it's a situation that's worth monitoring because it sets a bad precedent now going forward with some of these players. It really does. Philly should trade Embiid for him. Well, if you guys listened to me for years, what did I say? Trade Embiid. I've said it for years. Even when he won the MVP, I told you guys this. I mean, without a doubt, should have gotten rid of Embiid. I can't trust Embiid at all. You can't. You can't trust a player that is selfish. Embiid's a selfish player. Embiid does not care about Embiid winning. He doesn't care about the Sixers winning. He just cares about Embiid. You want to be a player, you want to make a max contract, you want to get that type of deal in the NBA, then you got to put all those injuries aside and you have to be engaged and you have to be on the floor and you got to be available. He's not willing to do that. He's just not. He's constantly injured. He's a front runner. And I don't want to hear about the new NBA. Everyone gets on me. Oh, Q, knock it off. Big man can shoot from beyond the arc perimeter. Get your fanny on the low block once in a while. Be dominant. You want to be dominant in the low block. Because ultimately, half-court offense, that's where the game is won or lost. It's where the game is won or lost. Look at the NBA Finals. When OKC needed to go in that half-court offense and get their sets going and actually work the ball down in low block or have SGA, again, put it on the floor and try to create and get to the line, they were able to do that. Now, it wasn't a difference in that finals. I mean, game 7, it was obviously Halliburton getting injured and then, of course, all those turnovers. But that's the way the NBA is. It's pick and roll. You got your perimeter guys, but you still have to go old school and work in that half-court offense. You got to be able to get to the center. I mean, that's bread and butter, man. Those are the dominant guys that will draw the double teams, period. They will. Start chimes in Q. What's the opening line? Just out of curiosity, Eagles and Dallas. It's sitting at 7. That hasn't changed. Sitting at 7, 46.5 is the total. I mean, if you're going to put some coin on it, Sarge, go ahead. The lines for week 1 they're right now, they're just they're sitting, right? They're sitting. Kansas City on the road, they'll be a 3-point favorite against the Chargers. Bucks on the road against the Falcons, they'll be a 2.5, 3-point favorite against Atlanta. I mean, the Giants are going to be dogs, if that's what you're insinuating. I haven't looked, but I'll tell you right now, I think the last time we checked, the Giants were 5.5-point underdogs. I bet you the Giants are probably 6.5-point underdogs, 7-point underdogs on the road. And the Giants are going to be dogs for most of their games. Most of their games this season. You guys know it and I know. All right, 5 o'clock straight up. Got to remind everyone it is a Friday edition of Middays with Q. I'm Rich Quiñones. We are live Monday to Friday on TriX57. TriX57.com. As always, get social with us at TriX57 on Facebook, IG, and X. You can log on to TriX57.com. That's where the show will stream live and also on demand. We're on their Facebook page. It's pretty simple. You just check out the program grid, the schedule. You can click on Middays with Q. Follow me on social media at RichQ on Q, IG and X, and TikTok RichQ on the mic. Quick time out. We will reset it. John Bueller on the other side from Fansided. We got your comments coming in as well. Keep them locked and loaded on a very busy Friday down the shore. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up as always.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlanta County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlanta County is rich.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlanta County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlanta County is rich.
All right, 5:05 on a What the Frig Friday edition of Middays with Q right here on TriX57. Rich Quiñones is here. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. Let me get a couple of these comments before we welcome in our good friend, John Bueller from Fansided. The man says, before 5:05, here's a non-read the room question. Big John steaks or Catanos? Oh, Big John's on Route 70. Get out of here. Not even a remotely close to an argument. We'll get to a couple more of those food questions as well. So, John, I threw out a couple things on this Friday, and we mixed in a little baseball. I wanted to get your thoughts on this, and I kind of see you were writing a little bit of this on Fansided, especially with Dak Prescott. We get a boatload of Cowboys fans that chime in, and sometimes you got to use the little repellent and spray them all over the place. But you look at the Dallas Cowboys, you look at Dak Prescott. I've got a list of 3 or 4 quarterbacks that I think are really under the microscope this season. Period. Dak Prescott is one of those quarterbacks. Give me your worst case, best case scenario for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys for 2025. I think John hears us.
Yeah, I do. Am I on?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I just gave you a great segue. Talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Let me reset it for you. We got the audio. You're good. You're good. All right. So what I was saying is, you've been writing about this a little bit on Fansided. I mentioned some of these quarterbacks that I believe are on the hot seat in 2025. One of them I mentioned is Dak Prescott. So I'll throw to you. What's the best case, worst case scenario right now for the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott? Kind of lay it out for me.
Well, I read about this for fansided.com earlier today. May have just gone live or whatnot, but I think he's probably primed to be the biggest bounce back candidate in the NFL. I think that like having, being fully healthy, going through that coaching change, Schottenheimer knows everybody on the staff. You get a really great player in George Pickens coming in with, a lot in his shoulders, fitting the role he's supposed to be as a number two and not number one like Pittsburgh is trying to do. I think the best case for the Cowboys is you make the playoffs, you challenge maybe the Eagles and the Commanders. I don't know if you win the division, but you ultimately you get to the playoffs, you win a couple games, still probably not going to get to the NFC Championship game, but it'll be a positive step in the right direction under a new head coach, and we'll see what happens. But it's crazy. They haven't been to the NFC Championship since I could read.
Yeah, so I'm actually going the other way. Like I mentioned, yeah, he looks great. He's in shape, but the problem is, the inconsistencies, the health, the offensive line. What has Jerry Jones really done over the last several years? I think Dallas is in store for a really long season. I mean, I would not be surprised if they got waxed to open up the season against the Philadelphia Eagles. If we're talking about making the playoffs, then the assumption is 3 got to come out of the NFC East, because I don't believe that Washington is going to take a step back. And I certainly know my Giants are not going to be very good. So let's paint this picture. If the Dallas Cowboys are, 2-5, 2-6, 1-7, and he's struggling, taking a lot of sacks, knocked out of a game here and there, and you just see that offensively, it's just not working. Is there any type of scenario where you believe that Dallas, even though it's a lot of money to take on and try to move, they would trade him?
It'd have to be like the absolute perfect situation. It'd have to be like somebody else gets hurt that's got a contending roster or things that they do. But then again, it's all about control with Jerry Jones. It always has been. It always will be for as long as he owns the team. And I struggle to see them trading Dak Prescott. But again, like we've seen crazier things happen. I'm kind of more of the belief that like they'll be like a fringe playoff team, and we'll see what happens in the NFC. I don't know. I think the NFC West is all kind of jumbled. I think NFC North will get a couple of teams in. NFC South probably just one, maybe 2. But there's got to be 3 playoff teams coming out of the NFC as a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas could be one of them. I'm not so sure they are, but they'll be in consideration for it. So even if they do get off to like a 2-5 start, like you were mentioning, I struggle to see Dallas basically kicking the bucket on Brian Schottenheimer that early, but we've seen crazier things happen.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I mean, I've got some people already telling me they feel he might be a one and done, right? I mean, if everything goes south, which, speaking of which, we know quarterbacks are married to the head coach, right? So you got Schottenheimer, you got Dak, you got McDaniel, you got Tua in Miami. That's another, I think, talk about a quarterback that paid him a lot of money, been banged up, been injured. You talk about those weapons. Yeah, they got some wide receivers on the outside. They're lacking in the slot. I mean, how about the pressure on Tua heading into the season to perform and actually get this team to the playoffs?
The Miami Dolphins are in a very strange and probably singular position. I don't think anybody has like the kind of pressure that everybody is facing from all angles here. Like if they don't make the playoffs or win a game for the first time since the Clinton administration in the postseason, like it's going to probably cost Mike McDaniel his job. It's going to cost Chris Greer his job. Yeah, and good luck trying to sell off Tua Tagovailoa. He's kind of an immovable asset. I kind of always it's so tough because I always feel like he's just one play away from his career ending. And then you got Zach Wilson backing him up and Quinn Ewers, who is incredibly injury prone as well. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of just down on Miami across the board this season, but I would say the second place is wide open in the NFC or in the AFC East beyond Buffalo. So maybe they get there if New England's not ready, or if the Jets continue to. Although I am kind of higher on the Jets more so than I ever am, but Miami is definitely in a very precarious spot this year.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen. It's again, everything's incumbent upon his health. I mean, when he's healthy and he's out on the field, you can get that. What we saw a couple years ago, 25-8, 29 and 14, 4,600 yards. I mean, last year he gets paid, comes in a season, but then he gets knocked out and he only plays 11 games. I mean, they are a very, I believe there are certain teams with their GMs and their head coaches that are in precarious positions. Like a couple people asked me about my Giants and Russell Wilson. And I said, look, I don't know if this is going to be a case where they're going to struggle. They're going to be a bad football team. They're going to win maybe 3 or 4 games, period. They'll luck into winning a game. Maybe it's Chicago, maybe it's the Saints, but the draw they got the first month or two of the season. So you go by the premise that Russell Wilson struggles and, maybe they win a game or two. They're not 5-4, 6-3. And this is a Coughlin, bench Warner, and go to Eli. That's not where we're at. The problem I had with the philosophy was you got a GM and a head coach that we can both agree are on the hot seat.
Right.
You bring in 2 bridge quarterbacks that are not your long-term answer, and then you draft a quarterback. So I ask you this, is this more of a Russell Wilson playing with house money and whatever positive the Giants can get, that would be great because it would be a pleasant surprise and maybe that prevents them from benching him and going to Jackson Dart? Or is the best case scenario where you hate to say it, they're 0-5, 1-6, he struggles, and you get the kid in there right away?
It's got to be worst case scenario because you got to figure out what you have in Jackson Dart right away. And another team that I think that's going to struggle this year is the Saints. At least they're going to go forward with Tyler Chuck and see what he can do. And, maybe they'll feed him to the wolves. Maybe he'll get devoured alive like Jimmy Clausen did with Carolina. And then they drafted Cam Newton, which would be Doug Nussmeier's kid, Garrett out of LSU.
Yep.
Or, it works out and you end up having like a Davis Mills type of guy where he took a lot of L's there with the Texans. But I think people across the league have a lot of respect for him as a backup. But you got to know what you have in Dart.
Yeah.
And I think with the Giants, the future is with him and Abdul Carter. Again, I don't really understand why that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane were retained. I think they did need to move on from them last year, but that's just what happens when ownership is questionable at that point. But I guess as far as Wilson's concerned, like if he has success, great, maybe you can trade him. But I don't think it's a good idea to have him start every game this season. I think it gets in the way of what you have with Dart, because the last thing you want to do in this day and age, the NFL, is to have a quarterback on a rookie contract and you just don't know. You got to find out quickly if he can do it or not. And we're still trying to figure out if he can do it or not in Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson. I don't think he can, but like that's the Colts for you.
Listen, I think Daniel Jones, he's firmly grabbed hold of that starting quarterback position, which again will add more insult to injury because we know what Jones was in New York. This is not going to be a Saquon Barkley situation again. Daniel Jones, by the grace of God, goes out and throws for 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 6 picks. I'm going to be like, you got to be kidding me. But we know who he is. Good point on the Saints. How about Trevor Lawrence? Because you get a different, the change in regime, so to speak. Another offensive philosophy coming in, head coach, offensive coordinator. I have a lot of guys that will say, well, Trevor Lawrence, like, is this the year he takes the next step? And I kind of went back to the Daniel Jones argument. Well, how many more years are we going to keep saying this, in the year number 4, in the year number 5, in the year number 6? So how much pressure is Lawrence in, or on, I should say?
He's got to make it happen, Rich. He absolutely has to make it happen. Look, Trevor Lawrence is from my neck of the woods. He's in the same recruiting class as Justin Fields. So 2 5-star quarterbacks from the greater Atlanta area. When he went to Clemson, I always felt like he was immensely talented, but I think Clemson was firing on all cylinders at that point. And I think we kind of grossly overlooked that like everything was kind of propping him up. I kind of wondered if Trevor Lawrence was ever going to be like a foxhole guy. And then he goes to Jacksonville, where like it's just scorched earth Armageddon pretty much there down in Duval. Doug Peterson was supposed to be this guy, and he briefly was. The Jaguars do a lot wrong, but they seem to draft wide receivers pretty well. I am not high on the Liam Cohen hire at all. I just think he's kind of a raging dork, and he's going to struggle relating with players and stuff like that. But every quarterback he's had up to this point, whether that's Will Levis at Kentucky, Baker Mayfield at Tampa, it's worked out. But like, they're paying Trevor Lawrence a lot of money to be the guy, and if he can't do it, then I mean, he's going to be the same sort of player that's the Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, Sam Darnold, Blake Bortles prototype. Is like, they look great physically, but like when you really need them to do it, do they actually do it often enough?
Yeah, it's a great point. John Bueller, kind enough to join us, lead writer, fan-sided host, Blog and Dirty podcast, and of course, co-host CFB. Fall start college football. I'll ask you a couple things on college football in a moment. How about Jared Goff? Right, because you're talking about a compiler, puts up a lot of numbers. Now, granted, the defense let them down. You get home field advantage. You get to bye, but yeah, you give up 45. But he also had 3 picks in that game against Washington.
I am a big fan of Jared Goff. I think he's shown a good level of mental toughness throughout his football career. I mean, he played for like a 1-11 team at Cal, and he had some success there with Sonny Dykes. Goes to the Rams, has to deal with some Jeff Fisher 7-9 BS, has to move. Sean McVay comes in there, gives him all the answers to the test, has some success, makes it to a Super Bowl, doesn't win it. Then you're basically told, you're no good. We're going to send you to Siberia in the Lions. And then Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, and Sheila Ford Hamp are like, yeah, we're going to believe in you. And I look at Goff kind of in that like that next tier, kind of below like the best 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Throws a beautiful deep ball. I think he's gotten better, as he's matured. I think he's now like in his 30s and stuff like that. Yep. But again, with the Lions, I feel like you missed your Super Bowl window just a bit, because like you lose Aaron Glenn to the Jets, you lose Ben Johnson to the rival Bears. Yep. And although I'm a big fan of Mark Brunell, what he's all about, Kelvin Shepard seems to be a guy that has a lot of success or a lot of rapport and respect in the locker room. You are downgrading at coaching for the time being, and it's going to be on Goff to help carry the torch for the Lions. I mean, I think they still might win the division, but like I think the chances of them getting the Super Bowl take a considerable step back from last year, and they didn't even get out of the divisionals last year.
You got Green Bay with Love. Obviously, the Bears and Williams coming into his second season got sacked a lot. And then Minnesota essentially throwing out the rookie coming off the injury. Who would be if you don't like the Lions winning the division, then de facto, who's your front runner? What team?
Yeah. I'd probably by default in that situation would go with Green Bay, just because you've got continuity there. I feel Green Bay is who Green Bay is. They don't have much variance. Like, they're probably going to make the playoffs. They could win the division, may win a game or two in there, but I don't trust Matt LaFleur in a big situation. Maybe Jordan Love can help elevate beyond that. But again, like, still kind of an unknown as far as like, is he a truly great franchise quarterback? He's good. And I think that the Packers can run the football pretty well. The concern for me is always about how good are they going to be on defense. We will see improvements out of the Bears, but the Bears are still incredibly dysfunctional. And then the Vikings, I think, will pull back a little bit with McCarthy. They'll win games, but I feel that like him being so new to this and everything like that could present challenges for them. So I would probably take the Lions to win the division. If not, then give me Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone LaFleur and Shanahan kind of in the same, like, you can't trust them in a big spot, or they take the ball out of the quarterback's hands when they're not supposed to, right? I.e. LaFleur. I want to get to baseball in a second with you. I know you're an SEC guy. I talked a little bit about this yesterday. I kind of pinpointed 1 or 2 teams, like best case scenarios. And, Alabama right now, they've got that brutal schedule. So, and I'll kind of pose this to you. Do you believe that, is it going to be more tougher? Can you realistically see this team going 12-0, even though they got some really tough swing games, or heading into the season when it's all said and done, they're more likely to be 9-3, 8-4. They got those games against Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn, right? And kind of what I mentioned yesterday with the SEC crowd, the college football guys, all bets are off if they stub their toe against FSU or Wisconsin. So I guess when you look at odds wise, can you see Alabama more of that 12-0 or 9-3, 8-4?
Probably the latter, more 9-3, 8-4. They're probably going to be somewhere like 10-2, 9-3. Schedule is very tough. You also have a potential road bump there at Missouri. I think that's another game. Like whenever we're like, oh, we don't know what, we don't believe in Mizzou.
Yeah.
Mizzou always comes through. You got to play at Georgia in Sanford between the hedges. The Dogs haven't lost there since 2019. And that was in like double overtime to South Carolina in a rivalry game off because of a missed field goal. The quarterback is really where it comes down to. I think ultimately Keelan Russell is the most talented guy, but he's only a true freshman. Austin Mack came over from Washington with DeBoer, and then Ty Simpson's been there a long time. He's probably the favorite to be the starter in Simpson. Ryan Grubb, the OC, talks very highly about him. But a lot of teams in the SEC have very difficult schedules. I'm probably higher on Alabama making the playoff than my fanside.com colleague and Fall Start co-host Cody Williams. He doesn't see it at all. But like if the SEC is going to get 4 teams in the playoff, Alabama will probably be the 3 or 4, more likely than being the 1 or 2.
We talk about quarterbacks in the pros on the hot seat. Now you look at college and a team like Auburn, their odds to win the conference title is plus 2,000. So again, 9-3, 6-6, 5-7. And how hot is the seat for Freeze?
It's a little toasty, but there are certainly hotter seats out there. I think as long as he and the athletic director, John Cohen, have a decent rapport, it'll be okay. I mean, the basketball team's doing well enough as is. So they obviously knew when they hired Freeze, it was going to be a little slimy. That's kind of what you sign up for, bringing him in. But you also knew that like the Brian Harsin era was an absolute train wreck. Didn't do right by Gus Malzahn, how that ended. So this is always going to be kind of a long-term play. I think as far as where Auburn is fortunate, they get both Alabama and Georgia at home this year. And when that happens, they have a chance to win maybe 1 or 2 of those games. I would say they're probably more likely to win the Iron Bowl than Deep South's all this rivalry, given where Georgia's at and where Alabama's at. But they could make that happen. But again, I think it really comes down to one person only with Auburn. It's what the Yellowwood money says. And if the Yellowwood money says we got to get a new head coach, that's going to happen. Trying to predict what Auburn's going to do is like predicting what the Seahawks are going to do in a draft. We have no idea. We're just here for the ride.
Right. And remember, too, they just lost that linebacker, goes to Georgia, right? They lost a wide receiver, Carter goes to Florida State. We know the SEC it's just stacked. I mean, Florida, again, best case, right? 10-1, 10-2. That was just a gauntlet. You're talking about toughest schedule, maybe some people are saying college football history, but be that as it may, 10 wins against this type of slate, you're looking at pretty much automatic playoff berth, right? And an at-large selection. I mean, kind of handicap Florida.
Florida's got a brutal schedule. I think it's like them, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt have like the toughest schedules in the country. And then I think it's like Texas. So, I mean, if you're Florida and you go 10-2, you're making the playoff because like you will have beaten somebody like Georgia. You would have beaten somebody like Tennessee, Texas, Miami, all playoff caliber teams. Ole Miss as well, which is certainly in that category. It's all about DJ Lagway, and I think that the upside with him, like he could potentially be the best quarterback in the SEC, maybe in a year or so. Like he was that well thought of coming out of high school. I think that the players are really buying into Billy Napier, and they think that how they played in the second half of last year did a lot for me. And I'm not a Florida fan by any means. I mean, I went to Georgia. This is my school's biggest rival. So, but I do respect what Billy Napier has done. That being said, I have noticed in some spots with Napier, particularly versus Georgia, there's about a 5 minute stretch of the game where he just freezes and it has catastrophic damage to his team. And they end up losing games by a lot where they could have been in it for a while. But I will say this, keep an eye on Texas going into the swamp. That could be a big trap game there for the Longhorns.
That's very, very, very interesting. I mean, that conference is so stacked. Like you're looking at teams that are 9, 10 wins. I mean, and they're gonna bang the hell out of each other. Which again, it's always interesting. I want to kind of switch gears before I let you get out of here. I thought the Mets had an opportunity to bury your Braves, right? And again, offensively, they had their moments. They're able to split the 4-game series 2-2. They get to win. Alonso gets a couple big hits the other night. They lose their pitcher, but I still think I'm not counting out your Braves in the NL East. I'm not, because the Phillies offense has just basically gone south. I mean, it's bad enough. Look, you get swept by a very good Astros team, but they couldn't even score a run. I mean, they got the 1 run yesterday, but then they got blanked 2 out of 3 of the games, and they scored 1 lone run yesterday, and they had their horses on the mound for them. So if you're a Phillies fan, that kind of worries me. The Mets only won for the 3rd time in 13 games. I feel like your Braves are sneaky, and if they just hang around, they're not going to be sellers like maybe I thought they would be. So how you look at the NL East right now on June 27th?
Um, I think it's ultimately going to come down to who's playing the best baseball at the end of the year between York and Philadelphia. It is kind of, it would be shocking if the Braves came out of the division, but like they're in the midst of like a very tough run here. You've got 3 at home versus the Phillies. I saw it tonight because I wrote about this for Fansided. They're going up against the pitcher, Mick Abel, who gave up 4 home runs to the Mets, 7 home runs in his first 5 starts. And Truist Park can be a little bit of a launching pad. I know we kind of got some like overcast weather here in the Metro Atlanta area right now, so that of course we may get some rain delay here with that. But if you take 2 or 3 from the Phillies, then your next couple of series are far more manageable. I think you host the Angels, then you go and you play at the Orioles and at the Athletics, and then I think you play at the Cardinals before the All-Star break. Like there's wins to be had there for sure for Atlanta. But if I go back to it to kind of talk about more about like the Mets and everything like that, I think it's good that they came out of it to split the series, to basically stop the bleeding. Find obviously what happened to the starting pitcher. That's tough and everything like that. Going to have to make a trade here probably to rectify that. The Mets, like if they can grow from this rough patch and come out of the All-Star break re-energized, they might be able to do it, because the Phillies have just been so inconsistent really with the offense. And like what I've noticed with being a Braves fan and covering this team, if you struggle offensively at the start of the year, you're just not going to like reignite it quickly. It may be a season-long issue. It may be a hitting coach issue, an approach issue. And it's so unbelievably frustrating if that's your team.
By the way, the pitcher on record tonight, Mick Abel, he's given up 18 hits, 9 runs all earned, and 7 home runs over his last 4 starts. That's in the month of June. Just in the month of June. And again, he's very hit or miss. His ERA is hitting at 4, right around 4.67. So you might see some runs tonight again. And your point on the Mets, here's the one caveat if you're a Mets fan. You're waiting for your big time players and/or player in Soto to finally wake up. And, again, it might take a little bit of time. We saw maybe he was just clutching the bat a little too much early on, but this is what you want. He turns around. I get it. He was 1 for 2 last night, but he was 2 for 2, 2 for 4, with 2 home runs the other night. Like maybe, that series, gets him going a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, Alonso can only do so much. Lindor can only do so much. Like for the Mets to do what they need to do, all 3 of them, including Soto, have to get there. And you're going to need other players like McNeil, who's always a player that I respected from afar. Nimmo just creating havoc on the base paths, walking a bunch. If you basically are able to manufacture runs and not just rely on the long ball and really kind of and not have the bats disappear for extended stretches, the Mets could have the team to win the division, because we talked about Philadelphia. It's been pitching, pitching, pitching. You got a guy out there that gives up meatballs, and unfortunately for the Braves, that won't matter because Bryce Elder's pitching today, and he loves to do that too.
Yeah, yeah. Cubs playing really good baseball. They score a lot of runs. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers are already at 51 wins. Then you look at the AL. My Yankees are so hit or miss. I just can't figure them out. They're like an enigma. And I feel as though the longer they let Tampa Bay hang around, Toronto half around. I mean, they had an opportunity, just like the Mets maybe kind of burying early on the Braves. Yankees had an opportunity to kind of bury the Red Sox, just kind of get rid of them. Now they start that set against the A's. But again, they're too inconsistent for my liking, right? You get swept by Boston, you get swept by the Angels, or 3 out of 4, you lose to the Angels. You come back, you take 2 out of 3 against a Baltimore team that's probably going to be sellers at the trade deadline. Then you follow that up and you lose 2 out of 3 against, a team in the Reds that, yeah, they're a couple games over 500, but they're kind of buried in the NL Central, 6 games back of Chicago. So I can't figure out the Yankees for the life of me.
I think there's an interesting parallel you said with like the Yankees and the Mets, and that's always just like good conversation to be had. But like allowing teams like the Braves and the Red Sox to hang around, it's doubly bad. It's not just because it's in your division where like each game counts twice as much, good or bad, whatever the outcome is. But like I don't think Atlanta or Boston are going to be sellers at the deadline to the degree that people are thinking. I don't think Craig Breslow or Alex Anthopoulos are going to want to admit defeat. And I think also, I'll speak more on the Braves' behalf. It's like with Sale hurt, he's not going to be available. And then Ozuna has 10-5 rights, which basically means he's been in the big leagues for 10 years. He's been with the Braves for 5 or 6 years. He can veto any trade.
Yeah.
And he's a DH.
Yep. Yeah.
And how robust of a market are you going to have? I mean, I know I've seen stuff out there with like the Red Sox, like, oh, let's trade Duran. I'm like, I don't even know who the third best trade candidate for the Braves would be at this point. Is it Sean Murphy? I mean, do you really want to trust Drake Baldwin to be behind the dish the whole time? He's great, but like the Braves always kind of do the backstop tandem here. But the Yankees, I don't know. It's the Aaron Boone of it all is probably the best way I can say it, and we don't have to really expound on that too much. But like, it's like just when you expect him to like, come on, can we please get there? It's like James Franklin with Penn State. It's like, and we don't because it's you.
I am not an Aaron Boone fan. Never been an Aaron Boone fan. Again, I go back. I love Joe Torre. But I also know at times Torrey was too loyal. Girardi had his moments as well, and Boone at times just makes head-scratching decisions, for the life of me, when to pull a guy, when not. I mean, look, the Phillies went through it the other night when, who was it? Was it Ranger Suarez or Sanchez was on the hill? I think he was 7 2/3, and they pulled him, or they kept him in, and then he gives up a solo shot. I mean, that's manager's intuition, right? You got, a good manager, in my opinion, all you're doing is basically you're managing your staff. That's really it. And then obviously, what to do if you have to shuffle the lineups, but it really boils down to pitching, and you have to have a feel for the game and when to keep these guys in and when to pull these guys. But the game's different, right? We want to shorten up the game. The guy goes out 3 or 4 innings and all of a sudden we're going into middle relief.
Yeah. I was thinking about this. So the bulk of major league managers are former catchers because the idea is like you see the whole field. It's kind of like the same thing where like a quarterback's going to be a head coach in football, a point guard in basketball, maybe like a linebacker or a safety in football from the defensive side of it. But if you're talking about a lot of guys who are former catchers, whether that would be Girardi, whether that would be Torrey, whoever else you want to throw out there as well.
His family, his dad, yeah.
Like, you're talking about people that just have no feel for a pitcher. It's like, come on, you work with the pitchers. This shouldn't be this difficult. Yeah. I don't know what we're doing.
You would think, but as we say, it is a very long season. All right, so it is a Friday. So what the frig Friday? Did anything make you say what the frig in the world of sports this week?
Probably more so than anything, just whatever the Pelicans did in the NBA draft. That was one thing where I'm like sitting here, you think, oh, we hired Joe Dumars. He built championship teams there with the Pistons, and he's like a Pistons legend and everything. And now that the Raptors moved on from Masai Ujiri, it's like maybe you have Byers and Morris bringing Dumars into New Orleans. And it was a really good weekend, really good draft for my Atlanta Hawks. So I was really happy about that. But it's just when you basically got all of social media panning what you're doing in a draft, I mean, you screwed up.
What now apparently reports are coming out that Ace Bailey will report to the Jazz. What I mean, I killed the kid when I came on the air. I mean, I'm at this point, like, you got drafted, show up, play, and everyone was throwing back and Eli in my face, and rightfully so. I get it, but this kid's 18. Like, he's not Ace Naismith. He didn't create the game of basketball. Now there's reports the Jazz are saying, hey, he's going to show up. I believe if he doesn't, then he might decide I'm not going to play with Utah. And then obviously that's a conversation for another day. But what do you make of the 18-year-old basically not only dictating where he wants to go, but now all of a sudden, not showing up?
I mean, his name's Ace. That's really all you need to know. But I mean, I know Utah has really kind of struggled in a post like Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Quinn Snyder world a little bit, but Ryan Smith seems to be like a good owner and everything like that. I mean, he got the NHL franchise there too. Seems to have a really good pulse of what's going on. The Jazz just kind of hit like a rough spot organizationally, but for the most part of my lifetime, like the Jazz, they always make it a point to field a competitive team. They're never down for that long. And I think when you go to an organization like that, yes, it's Salt Lake. Yes, it's it's the biggest thing in town. But like we've all grown up. We've all know about like the Jazz legends of Malone and Stockton and Darren Williams back in the day. There's been a bunch of other players as well. Like I said, Mitchell and Gobert. You can have success there. So there are a lot worse franchises to not want to go to. Like if I'm like they're saying, let's go play for the Wizards. Like
right. Agree.
Yeah, like there's a bunch more that have less of a clue what they're doing. Like, I think that's kind of silly to basically be that disrespectful to a franchise that's had the success that the Utah Jazz have had, all things considered.
Before I let you get out of here, anything, again, I know you got some writing coming up. We're already out there on Fansided and the podcast. If you want to promote as we let you get out of here on a Friday, what you got cooking?
I've been writing a lot of stuff, just more league-centric things. I wrote something about like what I think is every NFL team's best late-round pick that's going to go live tomorrow. So basically every day 3 pick that every NFL team made, I'm like, okay, this is the pick that I think is going to work out. Some of it's kind of based on like the position that the guy plays, if I knew about him in college. And I think it was a really fun exercise to put together because like every team's got multiple day 3 picks. Half the league's undrafted. And there's plenty of guys like Brady was a 6th round pick. Kittle was a 5th round pick. Cousins and Prescott were 4th round picks. There's gyms everywhere to be had. And I think it's always like, look at Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. Like when you have a guy that hits at that level and at that price range for your team, that's how you become a Super Bowl champion. It's, most teams can hit on the 1st round picks. Teams that kind of know what they're doing hit in day 2. Day 3 is where you mine your gems. And that's when I've got out there. That's pretty exciting. Again, I had a good episode with Blog and Dirty on Wednesday. Going to be doing that again on Monday because I'm taking some PTO next week ahead of 4th of July weekend. Going to have Fall Start coming up again on Monday. Probably going solo. Cody will be on the show later. But yeah, again, that Blog and Dirty is mostly like every Wednesday. Then Fall Starts every Monday and Thursday out of season. So that's what awesome. I got for you, Rich. Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's great stuff, man. Keep it rolling. You're doing great work, enjoying the pod, and certainly enjoying the information on Fansided as well. And of course, John's always going to be kind enough to join us at 5:05 on Fridays. Appreciate the extra time as always. Have a good sports weekend. Look forward to a lot going on next weekend. A little more baseball. Get cranked up for college football and NFL. And we'll talk then. Appreciate a couple of moments, pal.
All right. You do the same. Have a great weekend.
All right, you got it. That's great stuff, man. Got a lot of comments coming in. He does exceptional work. I want to take a quick time out. When we come back, we want to reset the table. A lot of eyeballs on this Friday. Keep it locked in. Quickie time out. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
All right, 5:40 on a Friday edition Middays with Q. Rich Quiñones here. Appreciate everyone keeping us tuned in. Got a lot of eyeballs on this Friday. Good stuff from John Bueller, as always. Some comments floating in as well on Facebook and on X. First Lady chiming in from Delaware. Q, looks like the young lad is going to report to the Utah Jazz. Ha, ha, ha. Enjoyed the segment with John Bueller. I did not know he's an SEC guy. Good football talk. He is down there in Georgia. Well, that's the report regarding Ace Bailey. It'll be interesting to see. And I get why people are being critical of him. I would be critical. I mean, I have been critical of him as well. Like, again, you're a young player, right? So you're still trying to find your way, whether you've had a standout career or not. Team drafts you, show up, just play the role, right? We talked about having that poker face early on in the show. Sometimes you have to have that poker face and you have to just play the role. And you got to play the hand you've been dealt. Now, obviously, if he, shows up, he's engaged and he's balling out, no one's going to have a problem with the kid. And this is just going to be like a little blimp, right, on the radar of his career. But if he also decides to turn around and he does not want to play with Utah, as we mentioned, he's got some options. He can weigh the options, right? If he wants to turn around, he doesn't want to play, he wants to go overseas, wants to re-enter the NBA draft. I mean, you never know. You can have a really good standout career. And sometimes you go to a place that you're really not enamored with. You're really, you're not falling in love with said place, and yet you can be successful over 10, 15 years. I mean, it's like a job. I mean, maybe you have to relocate with the family and you really don't like the job description. You don't think the title fits you, or you're not being compensated the way you feel you should be compensated, right? You're trying to match your compensation per your talent. And then you relocate and you realize, you know what, this is a good place for me. This is a good fit. I can lay down roots here. So he's a young kid. He's got to get better advice, period. All right. We mentioned about 45 minutes ago, quarterbacks, most pressure. Got a lot of people chiming in. I want to rip through these as well. With about 15 to play with them, we'll do the Q-Fecta, powered by our good friends over at TriX57. Miami Dan chimes in. Of course, it's got to be Tua and Q. I was very impressed by the pronunciation of his last name. Do it one more time for us. Ha, ha, ha. If they don't win the East, if they don't get to the playoffs, the quarterback and the head coach have to be out, do they not? Pay Tua, Tagovailoa, a lot of money. I think when he is healthy, I think he can be a very good quarterback at times. Now, I know people look at his size, they look at his accuracy, they look at the way he throws the football. He's got that quick release, but he can play. And they're going to be a run-first team. They're going to have the ball out of his hands quickly, and they're going to try to, again, work on the outside. Now, where they've got a little void of talent and some issues is in the slot. And again, his quick passes, it's all about, again, predicated on what's going on. Is it not? I mean, it's all predicated on what's going on at the end of the day. Got a couple other guys chiming in. Joe, turn around. Joe D saying, Q, I don't even watch that nonsense on ESPN, but if you're saying exactly what occurred, then that's absolutely garbage. Yeah, I mean, like I said, people want to start to bring it up with Cooper Flagg and Caitlin Clark, and they're giving these guys, the platform to say it, and they sound foolish. They absolutely sound foolish. My guy Jonathan Marshall chimes in too. Just shot me a text. Ace better ball out in Utah, laugh out loud. Yeah, he better. A lot of pressure, man. When you decide to play that game, you've got a bullseye on your back, period. You got a bullseye on your back. You get the body of work, and then maybe you don't want to show up. You want a new contract. That's one thing. But this kind of harkens back to what I've always said about the NBA. It's a players' league. And now you got these players coming out earlier, younger, and younger. And this is what happens. You better ball out. You better be that guy. And we'll see how it plays out. Now, I mentioned this the other day too. I like what the 76ers did at 3. I like what they did with their second round pick too. They got a really good player. You got an All-American as well. So you're trying to plug and play right here. I don't think they're going to be able to move George. They should try to re-sign Grimes, even though they are a little guard heavy. Embiid, your guess is as good as mine. Your guess is as good as mine because I felt Embiid should have been traded years ago. I think that Embiid doesn't take his body serious, being in conditioning, game shape serious, to training, the lifestyle, the habits, the diet. You have to take that more serious. And that's not really what he's done, to be quite honest with you. Then I got a couple Net fans, just kind of reiterate what I said the other day. Yeah, they went very, they went international heavy, I should say, right? If you think about it, they had the NBA record 5 first-round picks. They went international with the point guards. The Nets, they're not going to compete with the Knicks, and I know they're trying to, but they're just not. The Nets, they're a couple years off, man. They really are. I mean, this is a team that won 26 games. They just could not score. They gave up a lot of points. They're that bottom feeder team with Charlotte and Washington. The East is going to come down to 3 or 4 teams. Forget about Boston because they're selling off. That's evident. Holiday, Porzingis, you're dealing with Tatum. Boston's not winning 61 games next year. Boston's going to struggle. They're letting you know we are going to reset, recharge long term. We're playing the long game. Indiana, maybe Indiana kind of pulled what the Commanders did. They arrived a year too early. Now, again, the injury to Halliburton, that's a major blow. But they also took OKC to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Detroit, I'm not enamored with Detroit. I'm really not. I look at Detroit and I'm like, yeah, you got a player too. It's funny because we talked a little bit about PG and you kind of stick Tobias Harris in that camp with all the money and then the production. They got Cade Cunningham, really nice player. We talked a little bit about their draft as well yesterday. The Knicks are the Knicks. They don't have a head coach. Miami's teetering. Orlando's on the rise. Atlanta's on the rise. They were a couple games below 500. It's really going to come down, I think, the Knicks, Cleveland, Milwaukee's still Milwaukee. And then you've got your second tier in that conference. So teams like the Nets, teams like the 76ers, they're going to have their work cut out for them. It's going to take a while for them to be good because, quite frankly, with the Philadelphia 76ers, I just do not trust Embiid. I don't. I like the selection of Broom. What was it, 35? 5 picks into the second round. I like that selection. And Edgecombe, or I would have went Trey Johnson. Re-sign Grimes. You got Maxey. You're not going to move Paul George. You're just not. You've got some bench. You've got some depth. We talked about that. And I think the verdict's still out on the head coach. Yes, the head coach has won before, but that was Toronto. Nurse, to me, I see a little bit of the Brett Brownish, Doc Rivers in him. And that GM's certainly on the hot seat. Daryl Morey has to be on the hot seat. It's a make or break year for Embiid, Nurse, and Morey heading in to next season. And that's kind of where we're looking at in the NBA to answer some of your thoughts and questions. Let me get you updated on what's going on baseball-wise. Talked a little bit about that. The Mets will be back in action, 3-game set against the Pirates. Yankees at home at the stadium against the A's. Looks like Warren's going to be on the hill. O's struggling. They're going to be sellers at the deadline. They host the Rays. The Phillies, this is a big set. This is a big set for the Philadelphia Phillies against the Atlanta Braves because this is a team that they took 2 or 3 from the Mets. They took, 3 or 4 from the Marlins, coming off that sweep where they beat the Blue Jays and then took 2 and 3 in the Cubs. The Phillies were kind of rolling, and then all of a sudden, a little bit of a buzzsaw against the Astros. Blanked 1-0 in Game 1, blanked 2-0 in Game 2, and you had your heavy hitters on the mound too. When you throw out the Wheelers, the Sanchez, the Suarez, you're expected that those guys are going to go 6-7 in a third, and you're going to pick up the win. Your offense has to carry these guys. The offense has to lift these guys. They have not been able to do that in that series against the Houston Astros. So it's not panic. It's not, because there's a lot of baseball to go, but this is a big series. You can, I think, really hurt the Braves here. You sweep them, you push them back. Now they're 12 back. If you just let them hang around, you give them signs of life, it's not what the Phillies want to do. And you heard John Buehler mention it too. Yankees want to kind of distance themselves from the Red Sox. The Phillies want to distance themselves from the Braves. Now, if you look at the pitching matchups this weekend, so you go Abel, and we know he gives up runs. Luzardo has turned around after those two bad back-to-back losses. Sanchez is also, Suarez will be in line, and then you'll probably have Sanchez and Wheeler the first two against San Diego. So you've got 2 out of 3. You got opportunities where Suarez, Luzardo and Suarez are, you're good pitchers. These are your horses, man. These are your horses. And after those really, that stretch for Luzardo where he gave up 12 runs and 9 runs, he settled in, got the win against the Cubs, came back. Yeah, he suffered the loss against the Miami Marlins, did not pitch particularly poorly. Control was a little bit of an issue, but then he came back and he pitched really well against the Mets, gave him 6 2/3. So that's kind of who you want. You want that Jesus Luzardo on the mound. And I'm still telling you right now, 7-3, right in line when we talk about NL, Cy Young, the odds are kind of in our favor in that regard for Jesus Luzardo. So big weekend for the Mets, big weekend for the Phillies. Obviously, it's a big weekend for my Yankees. Listen, they should be able to score some runs this weekend against the A's. They really should. And then they got a huge set against Toronto. And then you got the Subway Series against the Mets. Then they got a Seattle team that's pretty good and a Chicago team. So we're going to know where the Yankees are at right around, second week in July. All right, quick timeout. We'll do the Q Factor to close things out on this Friday. Keep it locked in. It's a Friday edition of Middays with Q right here on TriX 57.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
All right, welcome back. Friday edition Middays with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quiñones. So some good comments coming in on quarterbacks under the most pressure heading into 2025. I want to remind everyone to get social with us on TriX57 on Facebook, IG, and X. You can also log on to TriX57.com. You can follow me on social media, IG and X at RichQ on Q, YouTube channel at Rich Quiñones, and of course, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. We'll get to Q-Fecta. We'll kind of bang that out right now before we get out of here. All right, we're going straight baseball this weekend. Again, the Mets minus 145 on the money line versus the Pirates. Yankees minus 265. I know it's a little heavy versus the A's. Pods minus 130 money line on the Reds. No WNBA picks, by the way. No WNBA picks on this Friday. Sorry, guys. No WNBA picks. But I will also close and leave you with this. So boxing-wise, think about these odds right now. So Paul and Chavez both made the cruiserweight limit. I think Jake Paul is probably down about 15, 20 pounds. I'm going to watch. I mean, that's all in all, that's not a bad card, to be quite honest with you. It really isn't. It's not a bad card this weekend. I mean, you got a couple cards going on. You got the card tonight in Canada, ESPN Plus. You got tomorrow Wilder fights, tonight Wilder fights BLK Prime PPV, which, you got Nico Hernandez, you got Dion Nicholson, Wilder, as I mentioned. Then obviously you got tomorrow on DAZN, Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. You got Gilberto Ramirez, who's back in action, only one loss in his career. the Chavez Jr. and Paul fight is interesting because everyone's saying, hey, if Jake Paul turns around and he gets a win here, now you start to talk about what? Start to talk about the rankings. Listen, say what you want. Listen, say what you want about Jake Paul. And right now, he's an extremely high draw when it comes to boxing. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Now, he's at this crossroads. Does he want to put all the time in MVP and be that promoter, or does he want to be the fighter? You can't be a part-time fighter in the sport. You can't. You can't. And what happens is, once you start running out of like aging stars to kind of face and fight, he wants a legitimate shot at the title. Period. Love him, hate him, loathe him. He's bringing eyeballs to the sport. Sorry, that's just a reality. He really is. You might not like it, but ultimately, hey, he's coming in. He's a 7-1 betting favorite against a fighter that has 61 pro fights under his belt. Think about that for a minute. Now, people are going to question because Chavez comes in or not coming in shape, and Paul's only had 12 fights under his belt, and you look at the guys that he's fought. But at the end of the day, he's kind of driving that boxing bus right now. He really is. You really can't dispute that. And he's been able to turn that niche, and he's doing a really good job with his promotions and his promotional company. And ultimately, he's also giving female fighters a big time platform and an opportunity to cash in. And listen, they deserve that. They absolutely deserve that, to cash in. They really do. And obviously, one of his biggest clients is still one of the sport's biggest stars, in Amanda Serrano. She'll take on Katie Taylor. That'll be an MSG. That's going to be a monster night. Listen, that is a monster night for female boxing. It is. You got Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. You got Yamilet Mercado, Elise Scott-Noy. Alicia Baumgartner is going to be on that card. Obviously, Savannah Marshall is going to be on that card. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Jessica Camara is going to be on the card. There's belts galore. So ultimately, helping put the female fight game in the spotlight, and Jake Paul has done a hell of a job doing that. He really has. You really can't debate that. Again, whether you think he's a goofball or not, he's making money. He knows how to push the sport. He knows how to brand and market himself, and he knows how to brand and market his fighters and his promotional company. And there's a level of business acumen and just genius attached to that. How he's been able to cultivate the contacts in the sport and then turn it on its heels like that. And listen, I mean, the odds, you're really not going to get much value, right? You got to lay 700 to win 100, unless you expect that Chavez Jr. might pull off the upset. Obviously, if it's sitting at like plus 450, then you're more inclined to maybe lay your $10 to win back 45. But that's for an upset, and that's really where you make your money if you're betting on the sport of boxing, right? When you get those championship fights and you really get that live big time dog. All right, got to start wrapping it up on a Friday. We'll be back in the saddle over the weekend. We got Tropical Bets Ahora, which we will fire off on the YouTube channel. We'll take a look at what's going on sports gambling and betting wise in the Caribbean. Also, BYP Back Your Play. We're going to fire that back up next week. So we'll start to go through WNBA. We'll start to go through MLB, and then we go very heavy with the show during the football season. Lloyd Vance typically will co-host as we take a look at all the betting lines, odds, favorites for that said week in the NFL. We already gave you a look ahead week 1, 2, and 3. As always, don't forget, get social with me on all social media platforms. It's pretty simple to do. Check the banner popping up right now. TriX57. Check out the Facebook page. Log on to TriX57.com. Insert that URL, favorite, bookmark it, follow them on Facebook, like, comment, and share, IG and X as well. And then for myself on IG and X at RichQ on Q, TikTok at RichQ on Mike. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel at Rich Quiñones. We post a lot of content on the channel. We post a lot of vignettes and clips on IG as well as TikTok. Got just a boatload of comments coming in today. Excellent job with the regulars. Excellent job with the guys on X and Facebook. Appreciate John Bueller jumping on board for a couple moments. Follow him on Fansided. As I mentioned, a lot of boxing this weekend. You got a little baseball. WNBA will recap everything on Monday's edition. It'll be, as we like to call it, a Lunes Man Up, Manolo Mentioso Monday edition of Middays with Q. As I mentioned, I'll be back in the saddle tomorrow. Tropical Bets Ahora. That'll be on SR 1029 FM, The Game, but keep it locked in Triax 57. Have a wonderful Sports Friday. Enjoy your weekend. As always, be safe, be sound. Appreciate you guys tuning in to a Friday edition of Middays with Q with me, Rich Quiñones. As always, hasta luego, mi dia.